Australia has defended its record on climate change at a summit overnight, with Scott Morrison telling the world's leaders to trust us. Let's go live to Jonathan Lee. He's in Canberra for us. Jonathan, it was a speech that had an obvious hiccup.
Yeah, it certainly had a hiccup, but many foreign leaders spoke about the urgency and the need to act. And our Prime Minister Scott Morrison was keen to tell the 40-odd foreign leaders on that Zoom call overnight exactly what Australia has achieved, especially when it comes to rooftop solar. The only problem was somebody forgot for the first 37 seconds to turn on his microphone.
Is there any way to tell him?
Mr. Prime Minister, I'm not sure we're hearing you here.
There was no starting again for Scott Morrison. He continued and got his message across. It was interesting to note that from what I saw, most of the world's leaders didn't actually use an auto cue. It was either off the top of their head or they had notes in front of them. So it was quite impressive in that regard. But Scott Morrison making the point to the world that Australia has achieved a great deal and can be trusted because we've got skin in the game. We continue to invest. We've talked in the past 48 hours about the money going into technology and new technology. Here's what he had to say.
We have proven performance, transparent emissions accounting and transformative technology targets to unlock pathways to net zero. Future generations, my colleagues and excellencies, will thank us, not for what we have promised, but what we deliver. And on that score, Australia can always be relied upon.
Now, of course, Gab, this summit overnight was held by new US President Joe Biden, who was telling the world, he gave a speech at the start, but I suppose the last line was perhaps amongst the most important. We really have no choice but to get this done. Here's an excerpt also from what he had to say.
The signs are unmistakable. The science is undeniable. But the cost of inaction keeps mounting. This is a moral imperative, an economic imperative. A moment of peril, but also a moment of extraordinary possibilities.
And Jonathan, a number of countries have announced new targets.
Yeah, they have. We heard from Germany describing this as a Herculean effort. The United States announced they want to cut their emissions by half by the end of the decade. The United Kingdom wants to be the world's leader on this. Canada also, Justin Trudeau spoke about his country's new ambitious goal.
But with hard work and a solid plan, Canada is now on track to blow past our old target. Last December, we strengthened our climate plan to reduce more emissions, including with a world-leading price on pollution. Our new climate target for 2030 is to reduce our 2005 emission levels by 40 to 45%.
Yeah, just finally, Gail, what we have seen and what we've heard is that the developed nations making extensive commitments and promises, ruling out Australia. We're talking about perhaps new targets towards the end of the year. Scott Morrison's left that door open. There is still a giant question mark over China. They've made very clear that their emissions will continue to rise until roughly the end of this decade, with the hope that they'll have net zero emissions later, perhaps by 2060. The big problem, though, is none of that is legislated. So while Australia might be saying, trust us, China, which is a much, much larger emitter, is simply saying, trust them.